Hello, love angels. It's your girl Shamika for God's Glory. Welcome back to Faith-Filled Friday. So we are back on the worry topic, and today's message is entitled Identity Theft. America is currently having a problem with identity theft. The advancement of technology and our shift to buying and selling things online has added to this crisis. People who steal others' identities will use their credit score and bank accounts to live a life that is not truly reflective of them, but rather of someone else. I think we've all dealt with that. Well, if you haven't, bless you, because it's definitely happened to me. A similar thing happens when we worry too much about what other people think rather than what God thinks. We begin to adopt the identities of people we see on television or successful people we read about rather than remaining true to who we are. Worrying about other people's acceptance of us is one of the greatest strongholds to overcome. This is different than codependence that we looked at on an earlier day. People-pleasing strongholds can lead to other strongholds such as perfectionism, overworking, and obsessive body imaging thoughts and actions. I think we've all been there. What is the cause of this stronghold? In Galations 1, we read about the religious leaders called Judaizers who sought to place Christians under performance standard, under the law, thereby abandoning grace. In Galations 1 and 10, Paul talks about these well-meaning, Bible-quoting leaders who are ripping the saints away from grace. Am I now seeking the favor of men or of God? Or am I striving to please men? If I were still trying to please men, I would not be a bondservant of Christ. Paul is saying that it is possible to be more people-oriented than God-oriented. Oh my gosh. Paul is saying it is possible to be more people-oriented than God-oriented. This is so true. Proverbs 29 and 25 says, "The fear of man brings a snare, but he who trusts in the Lord will be exalted." Satan uses our legitimate need for acceptance in an illegitimate way that can result in us living under a false identity. You'll notice how confused people are who want to please everyone. One minute they are pleasing one person, the next minute they're pleasing someone else. They have to be around people that are making them feel good. Those are those people you call yes people. Otherwise, they become depressed. You will begin to overcome your stronghold of worrying when you decide what God says about you is most important. The God who does not change loves you with an everlasting love. He has seen your ugly cry, your days without makeup or messed up hair, and has heard your rants and raves, yet still loves you. If you are driven by approval of people, remember, they are fallible and their emotions are shifting. I don't know if I can say anything else about this one. I can go back a little bit. There were a few points that I wanted to address. A similar thing happens when we worry too much about what other people think. And if I'm honest, that was me most of my younger life. I always wanted everyone to like me. I always worried about what other people thought. And I didn't think about what God wanted. Back in the day, I was just kind of like, oh, I hope they like me. And first day of school, you want to put on your best outfit so the kids you could look cool to them. But it's like, how about looking cool to God, huh? How about that? It's like we just forget, our creator. And it's so sad. Like I was speaking of the other day, it's like we take God for granted. Like, oh, God's there. He gonna fight our battles. All of that we say, which is true, but we can't just neglect him and we can't not do the work also. Faith without works is dead. Let's see. We begin to adopt the identities of people we see on television or people we read about rather than remaining true to who we are. That's true also. Or, for those on the gram, some of you may be watching this on my gram, but, like in regards to the body images and things that we're saying, like you go on Instagram and you see these girls and they're like size 2 with these big butts and toned abs. And one day I thought about it. I was like, are you trying to look a certain way for you? Or are you trying to look this way because this is what society deems as beautiful or fit? And I had to really have a real moment with myself and say, you need to be the best you can possibly be, and to stop comparing. Like everyone has their own identity. Why are we trying to have someone else's life? Like God gave us our unique, specific life. We were wonderfully made. So we need to remember that, appreciate that, and, just do what we need to do to be our best selves. Like, I have really had to come, because growing up, I definitely had self-esteem issues, and I used to be bigger, and, I shared a lot of those stories with you guys, and I said that I want to be healthy. And, sometimes you'll see people, and you're like, you may be like, oh wow, look at what they did. Now granted, sometimes you can see these people and it encourages you to get healthy and fit. That's all it should be, is to encourage and uplift and motivate, not for you to want to look like them, because we're all shaped differently. We're all different in general. Like, I'm never going to be and these are my favorite people, like a Autumn Calabrese or a Chalene Johnson, no matter how many of their workouts that I do, because we're all shaped differently. There's mesomorphs and endomorphs and ectomorphs, you know. Some people gain fat quicker than others. Some people gain muscle quicker. I've always been told I was big boned as a kid. You know, so that's why sometimes when people ask me how much I weigh and I tell them, they're shocked. I'm like, because it's more like muscle. Like, I'm just not framed that way to have that type of figure, you know. And just once you learn to embrace who you are, it's going to be so awesome. You're going to be like, wow, like, I am amazing. And you are amazing. And remember that. People pleasing. Oh, that's a big one. Worrying about other people's acceptance of us is one of the greatest strongholds. People pleasing strongholds can lead to other strongholds such as perfectionism, overworking, obsessive body images, which we just talked about. Perfectionism, I can definitely speak on, because even now there are times I do things and it's like it has to be a certain way. A teacher that I had once recently looked at me and he was like, you're a perfectionist. He could tell. Like, if I make a mistake, I would beat myself up about it instead of just saying. He told me, he's like, if you have a mistake, I mean, you know, if there's a mistake, just own that it's a mistake and move on and leave it alone. I would rethink how I could have did it better. And I know there's some of you out here watching who feel the same way. You know, it's like, oh man, why did I do it this way? And like I've said in previous videos, the past is the past. There's no way we can go back at all, as much as we can always try and reimagine what we would do in the instance. But it's like, if you did make a mistake, just learn from it and move on so you don't make it again. And if you do make it again, it's okay. You know, life is about mistakes. Life is about learning. And we have to stop beating ourselves up and criticizing ourselves so harshly. And we need to stop people pleasing. We need to be God pleasing. How about that? You know, like, stop. And I'm saying this to myself too, we need to stop worrying about this one and what they think about us and now we should walk in the image of God and walk with love. But there's a boundary with this, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from. All right, so I'm going to now share with you some scriptures that you can take with you, and I will also leave them in the comments below. So the first one is Galations 1:10. For do I now persuade men or God? Or do I seek to please men? For if I still pleased men, I would not be a bondservant of Christ. Proverbs 29:25. The fear of man brings a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord shall be safe. Matthew 6:1. Take heed that you do not do your charitable deeds before men to be seen by them. Otherwise, you have no reward from your Father in heaven. This also goes hand in hand with fasting. When we fast, that's supposed to be our bond or relationship with God. We're not supposed to tell everyone like, oh, I'm fasting, I'm fasting, I'm fasting. You got to make sure you're fasting for the right reasons. Matthew 6:16. Moreover, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites with a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces that they may appear to men to be fasting. I was just talking about this. Look at God, won't he do it? Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. All right, so those are all the scripture references that I'll be sharing today. I pray that you are as encouraged by this message as I am, and I just want to leave with you another reminder: stop people pleasing and start God pleasing. I love you all. Thank you so much for visiting for God's glory. See you next time. All right, it's time for the special announcement. Giving a huge birthday shout out to my little cousin Justin. Woo! I want you all to wish her a happy birthday, please. Comment below. Happy birthday, Justin. Love you.